Actually, you guys can hear me okay, right? Good. Yeah. In the back, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
All right, let's just go with that. First of all, I'm Chen. I feel very honored to be invited by DECA to speak at your leadership development workshop. I will today talk with you about 4 attitudes that I think that will help you stand out in your life and career. But before I do that, let me just introduce a little bit about myself. I was born and grew up in a whole small town in the Middle East region of China. As you can see from the first picture on the left-hand side of the screen, that was my hometown. There was absolutely nothing special about it. I remember I started really hard in elementary school, middle school, and high school, just with a simple goal of one day I can leave my hometown. I know that sounds a little bit terrible to say, but that was actually my motivation. Luckily, I got into one of the best universities in China, Zhejiang University, to do my undergraduate. I studied information technology there. Again, I started really hard because I was not satisfied to just stay in China. I want to go abroad and see the world outside of China. And luckily enough, I was accepted by Stanford to further my graduate study there after I graduated from Zhejiang University. So I did a PhD in management science and engineering at Stanford from 2007 to 2011. I graduated in the summer of 2011 and got into Google. So since then, I work at Google as a quantitative analyst in the cloud platform division. In the meantime, as I graduated from Stanford, I co-founded a non-profit organization called China American Innovation Network, or Chen for short, with a few friends in Silicon Valley. So we want to build a platform to promote innovation and entrepreneurship between US and China. I will talk a little bit more about Chen later on. So as you can see, I'm actually a very regular person. Right? I'm not neither wealthy nor famous, certainly not someone like Mark Zuckerberg or Larry Page. So why do you listen to me then? Well, it turns out I do have 10 years more life experience than most of you guys here. And hopefully I made more mistakes than you guys have made, and probably also have a little bit more insights about life and career to share with you, and hopefully those can benefit you. Right? Actually, to be honest, I feel more nervous talking to you guys than presenting to the SVP of Google. And the reason is, you guys are very young and relatively inexperienced. There is actually a higher chance for you to be influenced by what I'm going to say. Right? So I have to be really careful. Right? So I hope even you don't walk away with something good, at least what I'm saying will not harm you, right? But hopefully there will be some positive impact on how you think about life and career. So I want to talk to you about 4 attitudes that, in my mind, are very fundamental to your future success. And I actually rank these 4 attitudes according to their relative importance in my mind, right? This is a personal opinion, but just bear with me for now, right? The first attitude that I think are absolutely fundamental or important to you is proactive. Okay? So what proactive means? Well, literally it means just don't sit there and waiting for things to happen. Right? You should always try to go around, right? Make things happen, poke around, and look for the opportunities. And in particular, there are 2 implications of being proactive. The first one is you should always try to seek and grab the opportunities, right? When you feel strongly about something and you think that there might be a chance, even slightly, to achieve something, please always give it a try, right? The cost of trying is extremely low, but the cost of missing an opportunity can be a lifetime high. I will give you a personal example. During my second year at Stanford as a PhD student, I got very interested in the research done by another professor in my department who was not my advisor. Right? So I approached that professor and I said, I'm interested in what you're doing. Is there any chance that I can actually work with you on something? He was actually very open. He said, you know what, there happens to be a project this quarter that I need a student helping with. If you're willing to, why don't you just work for me as a research assistant, right? And I can give you this research assistantship for this quarter. I was very excited, so I went back to my own advisor and I talked to her. I said, there is this opportunity for me to work with this other professor for 1 quarter, and I'm very interested in that piece of work. Can I do that? And unfortunately, my advisor was not very happy about it. The reason is I was already committed to be a teaching assistant for her for that quarter. I mean, it means that I have to teach a class together with her and get the teaching assistantship instead of a research assistantship. So then I went back to the other professor that I want to work with. I said, you know what, my advice said I have to be a teaching assistant. Can we actually delay the project for 1 quarter? Let's start the next quarter. And he said, sorry, we cannot do that. You know, this research has to be done this quarter, and I only have this research assistantship available this quarter. As you can see, it's a dilemma for me, right? I could just tell myself, you know what, let's forget about it, right? It's just a bad timing, and I should just let it go. But I didn't do that. I went back to my advisor. I told her that, you know what, I will just continue to do the teaching work for you. I spend the extra 20 hours per week to teach the class, you know, besides doing my own classes and besides doing my own research. But I then also went to the other professor that I wanted to work with. I told him that I will work for you for free for this quarter. Right? I don't care about the money you give me. I just want to do the research work. He was very surprised to hear that, surprised by my enthusiasm. But then, of course, he happily agreed. You know, who don't want to touch a poor PhD student, right? So I ended up having one of the busiest quarters in my life. I worked literally days and nights on both teaching classes and the actual research I committed myself to. But amazing things happened after that quarter. So that advisor, that professor I worked with, became my co-advisor because he was very impressed by the work I did, right? And then since then, I worked simultaneously with 2 professors. I think I was only one of the very few students in the department that was doing that. And because of that, I was able to finish my PhD in 4 years, which usually takes other people 5 to 6 years to finish. Because I was working together with 2 professors, that greatly increased my work efficiency. And more amazing thing is, right before I graduated from Stanford, my co-advisor referred me to Google. Right? So now in retrospect, if I didn't try so hard to grab and seize that opportunity, my life trajectory later on might be completely different. I don't know in a good way or bad way, but the moral of this story is that you should really never, you know, let go of an opportunity too easily, right? You should always try your best to grab it and seize it. Another implication of being proactive is you should always try to push your boundaries, right? What does pushing the boundary mean? It means try to think bigger and bigger, right? Try to deliver beyond what you are asked to. Okay, so think about you're doing a course project, or think about you are running a startup of your own, or maybe you're working in a big company. Right? Your teacher, your boss, or your customers may ask you for A, B, and C. Don't just deliver them A, B, and C. Deliver them A, B, C, and D, and E, and F. Right? Try to exceed their expectation. Go beyond what they ask you to do. It's only through constantly pushing the boundary, right, and delivering beyond the expectation can you actually truly stand out. And trust me, if you keep doing this, if you keep pushing the boundary, usually you will find out that the opportunities really hide in the boundaries. If you keep the boundary, more opportunities will emerge. Right? And you will find this virtuous cycle between the first and the second points here. And that will actually be a very amazing thing to do. So that is the first attitude I think you should have, being proactive. So now second is about being inquisitive, right? Inquisitive in a good way. I think this is very easy to understand. So first point I want to make here is, please never feel ashamed to ask questions. Right? This may sound obvious to you guys. However, it may not be that easy to do in real life. I remember when I was in China, you know, in China there is such a thing called face, 面子, for those who understand Chinese. You don't want to lose face. You don't want to lose means, because face means a lot, right? You don't want to be, feel embarrassed. So sometimes, instead of reaching out, asking for help, asking questions, you would rather just stay in a corner and try to figure things out, even you're not able to figure it out by yourself. So the point I'm trying to make is always try to leverage others' intelligence in a healthy way. Okay? I think it is very dumb to spend 10x more time trying to figure out something that is puzzling to you, while your friend or your colleague actually see it as a common sense. Right? So you actually need a lot of bridge to lead to your final destination. So in this process, you actually need a lot of help and advice and recommendations from the people around you. So try to reach out more. I'm not trying to suggest you to abandon independent thinking. Right? Independent thinking is still very, very important. The point I'm trying to make is that when you feel that you're already stuck with something, right? You shouldn't try to beat up yourself in a corner and then torture yourself mentally why I cannot figure this out. You should really try out and ask for help. So this is especially important when you work in a team, right? If you're doing a startup or if you work in a company with other colleagues, you will realize that asking questions and reaching out for help will greatly increase the efficiency of your team. So the second point about inquisitive is about reading. So I would strongly recommend all of you guys to read a lot of books. So for myself, actually, I try to read at least one new book every month. And I would encourage you to do the same thing here. So it's through reading that you can actually communicate to all the greatest minds in history and in the world. And it will be a very, very beneficial thing to do. So inquisitive is about asking questions and reading books. And third attitude I think is very, very important to you is about persistent. Right? So persistent is about execution. It's about having that willpower to stick to your plan, to make things happen, right? And not give up too easily. So there is a very famous author called Gladwell. I'm not sure whether you guys have heard of him. So he wrote a book. The book is called Outliers. So what he did is he studied many top-tier people, most successful people in different verticals, right? Barack Obama, or Steve Jobs, or Larry Page, or Michael Phelps, or Yorkfish. So he wanted to find out what made these people so successful, what made these people truly outstanding in what they're doing, right? So what he found out is, yes, many of these people are indeed talented, but what's more important than talent, than genius, is the fact that all of these people devoted tens of thousands of hours of practicing exercise, training, working, on the thing that they feel so passionate about, on the thing that actually motivates them. Right? So this is actually what makes those people successful and stand out from the regular person. It's not that they are just more smarter than you, well, which they might be, but I'm sure a lot of you guys are also super smart. What made them stand out is their determination and persistence. So then the author Gladwell continues to make the point that even for a regular person, you and me, if you just devote 10,000 hours working on one thing, right, you will eventually become a master. You can go back and try this. Just, for example, you want to pick up piano, just to spend 10,000 hours practicing piano. You'll definitely become a master of piano. So, based on my personal experience, I calculated, I spent 10,000 hours working on my PhD. And sure enough, after 4 years working on my PhD, I became an expert on my dissertation. Right? So this is actually supported by a lot of evidence. This says that don't give up too easily. When you have a plan and you think it is a good plan, a meaningful plan, try to stick to it. Try to have that willpower to actually follow through. The fourth attitude that I think is important to you guys is about empathy. So empathetic. This might sound a little bit out of blue to you guys, but actually being empathetic is super, super, super important. Especially when you become older, you will realize how important this is. The reason I say this is no one can actually succeed alone, right? You will find out that you need a lot of supporters, helpers, endorsers, allies to help you, right? To work together with you to make big things happen, right? So in order to have that kind of network, in order to have these people work together with you, you need to be able to understand people and value people and trust people. And that is about empathy. So first of all, you need to know how to put yourself in other shoes, okay? So when I say this, I really mean that you should try to show compassion, okay? And try to resonate with people on the emotional level. Try to experience other people's feelings and other people's point of views, okay? And this will actually lead to a better team collaboration and more considerate decisions being made. The second part of being empathetic is just about being open-minded. Okay? Accept the people as they are, not as you would like them to be. Okay? Accept the fact that there are different types of people. People have different types of opinions and mindsets. Right? Difference will always exist, and you should respect that. In fact, you should realize that diversity is always a good thing. Right? So you should try to train yourself to be able to work with all different kinds of people. Right? People with different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, with different opinions. And this is especially important if you want to become a leader, right, under this big context of globalization and culture mix. Right. So I talked about these 4 attitudes. In summary, they are proactive, inquisitive, persistent, and empathetic. And for the ease of memorize, I call them PIPE, P-I-P, right? I would argue that if you are equipped with these 4 attitudes, you actually, congratulations, you actually have the fundamental building block for something even bigger and more powerful, which is leadership and entrepreneurship. Why is that? Because proactive is about the ability to take charge. Inquisitive is about the ability to explore and find something new. Okay? Persistent is about the ability to execute and to follow through. And eventually, empathetic is about the ability to value, to work with, and to influence others. Empathetic is actually the multiplier of the previous 3 qualifications or attitudes, right? If you have them together, you will be on a very good trajectory to become a real leader. So next, I want to recommend a few books to you guys that are very much related to what I just talked about. And I would suggest you guys read those books if you have a chance. The first one is called The Startup of You. So this book is written by Rick Hoffman, who is the co-founder of LinkedIn. Are you guys using LinkedIn? I'm sure you guys are using Facebook. Maybe it's too early for you to use LinkedIn. But this is a very famous guy in the tech industry, okay? So he's a co-founder of LinkedIn. And in this book, he basically described how you can manage your life and career as if you are running a startup, okay? As if you're running a business venture. Right, so he applied a lot of the philosophies of running startups to managing your personal life and managing your career trajectory, which is a great piece of work that I think you should read. The second book is called Leaders, The Strategies for Taking Charge, and it's written by Warren Bennis and Bert Gaines. So this book, I think, focuses slightly more on the leadership in workplace, which might be a little bit early for you guys to read, but nevertheless, I think it is a very good book talking about some fundamental elements of leadership. And the last book is called The Willpower Instinct. It's written by a very famous psychologist, Kelly McGonigal. So this book talks about how you can get a strong willpower to execute, to stick to your plan, to not give up easily. Right? So these 3 books great books, and they actually covered a lot of the opinions that I talked about in my presentation, and I would recommend you guys to read. Last but not least, I want to say a few words about Chen, the nonprofit organization that I'm currently running. Right? So Chen is a nonprofit founded in 2011 by a bunch of Silicon Valley professionals and entrepreneurs with the goal of building a cross-continent platform for innovation and entrepreneurship exchange between US and China. Right? So we have been running for 2.5 years now. We organized a lot of events, panel discussions covering the trendy technology, topics, conferences like this one that you guys are having right now. And we organize annual conferences in China, talking about mobile technology, talking about big data. We also organize startup pitch, where the entrepreneurs just come with their projects, their products, and then pitch those products to the investors in both Silicon Valley and in China. And we also organize startup bootcamp, so where we invite some very experienced, maybe serial entrepreneurs or lawyers or investors to teach entrepreneurs about the most important elements of starting up a business. So actually I met Albert in one of those startup bootcamp, and then he invited me to come here and talk to you guys about leadership. Right? So I think the final piece of information I want to share with you guys is Chen favors the connected mind. Okay? So you should always try to build a network around yourself. Maybe it's a little bit hard for you guys to understand right now because you are still in school, you're a student. But as you go to college and start your career, you will realize that you really need to leverage the network, the power of the network. So build a network around yourself with smart people. Connect yourself with a smart minds. That will actually benefit you a lot. Okay. So I wanna finish my talk here and do a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions related to PIPE, which I just talked about, or leadership, or China, or Stanford, Google, or Chen, or anything else that you want to ask me or discuss, I'm happy to do it.
What do you see as like the main difference between the Chinese mindset on leadership and the American mindset?
So I would say that on most aspects they are quite similar. There's one thing, I think it's because of the culture difference. In China, people tend to be more indirect, okay, than people here in the United States. So I know here the leadership style. A lot of the leaders that I personally know, they have a very straightforward leadership style, right? They tend to tell you upfront or tell you directly what they're thinking about you, what they think, how to proceed. But in China, the culture is slightly different. Sometimes people don't like those people who are too straightforward, right? They may think these people are kind of impolite. So a lot of the leaders tend to be more mild and indirect in a sense. Although they have maybe a very strong mindset, they may find an indirect way to convey that message to you. So that is one difference that I can sense, between some of the leaders in China and some of and the leaders in the United States. But I think overall, the most basic qualifications are actually the same, right? It's generic.
When you first came to America to study after living in China for your whole life, how did you deal with the cultural difference?
That's a good question. I want to share one very interesting story with you. So 2 weeks after I arrived at Stanford, right, I know a bunch of American students, and I invited them to my dorm for a party. So during the party, I asked them, do you want to drink something? I think it was November or December, kind of cold. I asked them, well, do you want to drink something? They were like, yeah, we would like to drink something. So then I go and I boiled water for them. So it's steaming boiled hot water. And I just brought them like 4 glasses of hot water, steaming hot water. They were like, what are you doing? You know, like, this is hot water. This is for you to drink. And they were like, are you kidding me? Like, we don't drink hot water. We drink ice water. I was like, but this is a winter time. You're supposed to drink hot water because it's better for your stomach. That's actually the first time I literally felt the culture difference, right? Because in China, no one drinks ice water, especially in winter time. Right? People will think you are crazy. So that's one example. But then there are other examples like that, because one other example is I feel people here in the United States respect the privacy and personal space much more than people in China. China has 1.4 billion people. Maybe that's the reason. Right? Because we're so used to be in a very crowded environment. So the first time I remember that there was one time I was walking very fast in a hallway in a building at Stanford. I walked very fast past another student, and he said, "Excuse you," and I was actually very shocked because I was not like hitting that person or something. But then he thought I'm very rude, behaving that way, walking very fast past her without saying excuse me. So that was another time I felt, oh, yeah, that's probably a culture difference, right? People have really different bottom lines. So, and you try to get used to, you try to learn, right? You try to learn from people around you, try to learn from your daily experience, how this different culture work. And then it comes back to the point I was making here about being open-minded, right? So you really should open your mind and try to learn and accept the different cultural aspects, right? Cultural elements. And I think we're all smart, so I think it's not hard to pick those up. Now, if a foreign student comes to my house, I won't offer hot water. So I already learned that. So. And I always try to be open-minded, try to ask, if I'm not sure about something, just ask them, right? What is the right way to do this in your culture, in your country, right? Just be open-minded and always communicate, and then you won't have a trouble with culture difference. Yeah. Yes?
What is your major?
My major was management science and engineering. In particular, it's about optimization. Do you know what it might be? So basically, we take a business problem or practical problem. We try to build a mathematical model, right? Try to abstract that practical problem to a mathematical model, and we try to identify the mathematical properties of this problem, and we try to solve this problem mathematically first, and then find out how we can fit that solution back into reality, translate that mathematical solution into the so-called managerial insights. Okay, so that's essentially what I did in my PhD. So I studied a lot of business problems, tried to convert them to a mathematical problem and solve them mathematically, and then convey back to the managers of executive in business about how should they run their business more optimally. So yeah, that is essentially what I did. Any other questions? Yes?
Do you think the majority of people in China are like open-minded to other cultures?
I would say the young generation, they are more and more open-minded. They are deeply influenced by all the Hollywood movies. So and the fast food culture, so a lot of the young people, especially my friends, they are very interested in the American culture or the Western culture, and they are extremely open-minded. So maybe some more senior people, more older people in China, they're still kind of conservative. They may think differently, but I think the young people, yeah, they're well connected to the rest of the world. Although there is indeed censorship, but young people are very smart. They know how to actually, go to Facebook or Google or YouTube in China. So they are very open-minded. Yes.
Given your choice of starting another company anywhere in the world, where would you choose?
Actually, I would probably start the company in Silicon Valley, but then I would probably try to expand it later on into China because I have this connection with China. I have this culture and racial background in China, so I do think I have some leverage there. But I think Silicon Valley is still so far the best place to start your business. It's just because this environment is awesome. You have so many resources around you. You have so many awesome people that you can work together with, and the ecosystem of venture capitalism and the ecosystem of mentorship, incubators, right, and all the different exit channels. I think it's a great place to do a startup. If I'm going to, by the way, I wouldn't call Chen a company, but if I'm going to start a real company, I probably will start it from here. But hopefully, eventually, I will expand it to China because there's indeed a great market potential in China.
Can you offer some advice on how you work with other people in your business, nonprofit? How do you delegate work to others without creating conflict?
Yeah, so that's why I said empathy is very important. Because especially for me, I am running a nonprofit organization. So you have to understand that as a nonprofit, we actually recruit everyone as a volunteer. We actually don't pay. We don't pay them basically. They don't get paid. They're volunteers. So then you have to find the things that can motivate people. Right? So maybe you share a common vision on something, or common value proposition on something, and you try to just talk to people and try to persuade people why you think this is a meaningful thing to do, right? Why you think connecting China and US by promoting entrepreneurship, promoting innovation is so important. It can not only help you yourself, but also help millions of others people, right? So once you get people on board, meaning that they agree with your vision, then it becomes much easier, right? You should never try to use your power to force people to do something for you. That will just never work. Even it's in a corporation where people get paid, right? You hire people to do things for you. The fact that you're paying them doesn't mean that you should force them to do the thing that they fundamentally don't believe, right? You should always try to sell your idea, sell your vision first before you sell your product or whatever you're trying to do. Okay, so I think that's the way. And also, meanwhile, show empathy. Right? Try to understand people. If you see someone is not working, is not collaborating, talk to them and find out why they're not collaborating, why they're not behaving the way you want them to be, and understand what is the barrier there, right? And then from there you can find out solutions, right, to resolve their concerns. So yes, so it's about leading people using your vision instead of your power, and it's also about being empathetic, communicate with people, and find out, what is holding people back. Yes. Any other questions? Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge that you have to overcome, that you have had to?
I have had to overcome in
your life?
In my life?
Yeah, the biggest challenge.
So I think, okay, I will be completely honest with you. The biggest challenge I have experienced is the shift of mindset. What I mean by that, when I was in China, I was, as you can tell from my resume, I was a typical good student, right? I told you that I worked really, really hard from all the way from elementary school to high school to college. I was super, super hardworking. Okay? I worked in the classroom every night till 1 a.m. sometimes when I was in college. So, but I was a little bit, how to say, what's the word? Utilitarian, is that the word? So I was focusing too much on the result, on the outcome. I wanted to get a good grade from exam, for example. So sometimes that became my motivation for study. Right? And in China, that was perfectly fine because a lot of people are doing that. Because there's so much competition, you have to focus on the result. Right? You have to make sure you devote all your energy on this class and then this exam and make sure you get a good grade, because that's the only way you can prove yourself and get to the next level, right? Think about thousands of students competing with you in order to get into Stanford, and there's only one quota, right? You have to be that person. But when I came to the United States, I realized that is wrong, right? That is probably the way you have to function when there is resource constraint. But in the United States, I realized that the real way that you can find a sustainable competitiveness is really through following your passion. It's really through doing the things that motivates you and excites you. It's not about spending time working on exam just to get a good grade. that won't help you. Maybe it will help you short term, but it will hurt you long term. So starting, I think a few quarters after I started at Stanford, I started to shift I try to shift my mindset. I focus less and less on getting good results, getting good grades from exams. I focus more on learning the knowledge that I really, really want to learn, that I think interests me the most, and I think are most useful for the later stage of my life, right? And I think I'm still in the process, to tell you the truth. I'm still in the process of changing this mindset because it was so deeply rooted in the culture. Okay, so, but this was the biggest challenge I'm faced with, and I'm still in the process of fighting with that. Yes.
One last question.
Yes.
Going back to your previous answer, I was wondering why you would start a startup company here in Silicon Valley. I was wondering why you would start a startup company here in Silicon Valley instead of any other region of the United States, such as Boston or the research triangle.
Oh, so first of all, I am here right now, right? So I went to school here. I also work here, so it's just more convenient for me. I don't want a quick job from Google and just fly to Boston to start a non-profit organization because all my network and I shouldn't say all, but 90% of my network and my resource are here. All my friends are here. If I want to do something, I want to do the thing with my friends, with the people I value, right? So that's why I choose to work here and start the non-profit organization here. And also because of the reason I already mentioned, this is a great environment. It has a very great ecosystem, right, with all kinds of resource and mentorship that you can find. And also one other reason is its closest point to China. Right? I don't want to go to the East Coast because then it's like 5 hours more flight. So that's also one part of the reasons. Yeah, I think because of the time reason we may need to end here. But yeah, feel free to write me emails if you have more questions. And I also have some business cards, so if you want, you can grab one here. All right, thank you.